All right, I think it's recording now.
Woo!
Woo! Okay, I'm happy. It's spooky season. We are officially towards the end of October. I think today is October 28th?
I mean, it says it right there.
Oh, yeah, it's October 28th. I'm just stupid and I didn't see the top of the computer. Yeah, it's October 28th. So this episode is probably going to be released on Halloween, which we're excited for.
You have your editing turnaround that fast?
I guess we'll find out.
You're a busy man.
We'll see. I have to work later tonight, so maybe I'll just spend all of Saturday doing it.
That does not sound fun, but
yeah. I'm sure we'll get it in. Yeah. All right. So yeah, this is a new podcast. Obviously, this is the first episode. This podcast is called Script Supervisors. I am Jaden Yee, and this is Bren, and I don't remember your last name, and I feel so bad. I'm so sorry.
It's Earhart. Bren
Okay,
Earhart.
This is my co-host, Bren Earhart.
Hell yeah.
And I should have remembered that. And now I feel really bad that I didn't.
It's okay.
Okay, but I know it now, though.
I don't remember your last name, so even though you just said
it. Yee.
Yee?
It's like Lee, but with a Y.
It's like Kanye.
Yeah. I think his name is technically pronounced Ye.
Yay?
Yay? It's Y-E.
Because it's Kanye, and then he just took out the first three letters for some reason.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, there's a bit of news about Kanye. Like there was
There's always news about Kanye.
The Madame Tussauds Wax Museum removed his statue because of anti-Semitic comments he made.
Yeah, I feel like everything's just sort of dropping him because of the stuff he said. Like he's like banned on Twitter, and like people aren't selling his shoes anymore, and there's all this different stuff, and
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went from like Ezra Miller and all of his stuff. Ezra Miller and all of his stuff that went on to Kanye. Something's gonna come up here in a few months. Another celebrity's gonna be like under the spotlight or something.
Yeah, dude. Ezra Miller was doing so much different things though. Like there was so much variety. Like there was assaulting people in Hawaii and like starting a cult in Sweden.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you have who has the time to do that shit?
Yeah. Like it's crazy. And it also just added to like the disaster that is DC or was DC, I guess, because like there were so many things internally going on, and WB just did not comment on any of the Ezra Miller stuff because they wanted to keep him as the Flash.
Like, if they keep him, I'm gonna be so like genuinely surprised because like, studios these days will drop people over like the smallest things, and I mean it makes sense. They want to protect their image, but if they keep him, I'm just gonna like, why?
Yeah, like I mean, they've got Flashpoint coming out, or that movie that's starring the Flash. I forgot what the title is, but the studio's hoping that this is gonna blow over before they release the movie, and then after, I wouldn't be surprised if they just dropped Ezra Miller after the movie releases.
Yeah, I could see that, but like, hoping that it's gonna blow over doesn't really make any sense because. Like, it's going to come out and people are going to be like, oh, hey, remember when Ezra Miller did all this terrible shit?
Yeah. And DC has that show coming out, too, about Alfred Pennyworth. And literally the title, I think, I have to double check this because it's so ridiculous. I didn't believe it was real.
Uh-huh.
But the title, I think, is... Let's see. Hold on.
You're looking it up.
Yeah. Oh, wait, there it was. Yeah. Okay, so the series is called Pennyworth, The Origin of Batman's Butler.
What the fuck?
That's the official name for the show on HBO Max. And that's, like, you couldn't come up with a better name for that?
Literally just the first part, Pennyworth. That would have been fine.
Pennyworth would have been fine, but no, you had to add : The Origin of Batman's Butler. And when I first heard this, I didn't think it was real. But apparently it is.
It sounds like a joke. Like
it does sound like a joke.
It sounds like a shit post that you'd see online and be like, oh, that's funny. Imagine if they actually made that.
Oh,
and then they just did.
Yeah. Speaking of which, like that, we kind of like got here naturally. But one of the things in like my notes for what the news was James Gunn was named the head of DC. So
head of DC. Okay.
Yeah, he's like the CEO of DC now. Or I don't know if that's his official title, but they made him they want him to be the Kevin Feige of DC.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he makes good movies.
Yeah, like the Suicide Squad was great. Yeah. I loved it, and Guardians of the Galaxy is also obviously great. Yeah, it's just
one of the few Marvel movies I can actually stomach these days.
Yeah, I just I don't know if he has the ability to do this. Like, I haven't watched Peacemaker, but I've heard it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I haven't seen it either, but it sounds really good.
If James Gunn has his way, I don't think the studio is going to like it and they're going to fire him or something. Because the studio, it seems, wants control of everything. They just want someone to be like...
they want someone to think of all their good ideas for them, and they want to make money off of it.
Yeah. Because they scrapped a whole bunch of projects. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a Supergirl project, I think, that was scrapped.
Yeah, I heard about that. Like, there was a huge list of things that people were actively working on. They were just like, nope, bye.
Yeah, no, it was insane. Anyway, yeah. So other things I have here: Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania got a trailer, and so did the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. I actually watched the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer. I
haven't seen it yet.
I thought it was really good, and it's set to the music of Elton John's "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road."
Ooh.
Yeah. So that was amazing, and then we got our first full look at Stature. So his daughter Cassie Lang, we got her in her suit. It's purple, and what I noticed is that Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne have their comic accurate, or as close to comic accurate as we've seen their suits.
That's good because I love the shit out of it. I can swear, right?
I think so.
Okay, I really love it when the characters in Marvel movies have comic accurate stuff.
Yeah,
because it feels like they're not just taking the ideas of the character; they're taking the actual character and paying homage to the original version of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, at the end, Sam's costume is almost straight from the comics, and then they had classic Loki, played by Richard E. Grant in Loki.
Yep.
They had a lot of comic accurate costumes actually in the Netflix shows, like Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, obviously.
God, I fucking love Daredevil. So much.
Daredevil's amazing.
Oh my god, my roommate started watching it, and we just chatted for 2 hours about how great it is.
It's just an amazing show.
I know.
It's so good, and I can't wait for Born Again. They're making it 18 episodes, which seems like a good thing. I can't wait to see Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin back with Charlie Cox as Daredevil.
It's gonna be so great.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. Anyway, the Ant-Man trailer. Ow. We somehow moved from Ant-Man to Daredevil. Oh yeah, comic accurate costumes. Yeah. So so Wasp has the black and the yellow, which I really like, and then Scott's suit is also kind of different, and it's got more of a comic accurate look. Kang looks amazing. We got our first look at Kang. He looks so good, and he's got scars on his face. So there are people saying that that's Wolverine or something. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, just because...
Well, I do know that Wolverine's back in the new Deadpool movie.
Yeah, they brought Hugh Jackman back for that Deadpool movie, but I don't know that they're gonna relate Kang to that. It just seems it seems so weird to relate it to it.
It's a really big jump.
Yeah.
To start actually including Deadpool in the MCU. Yeah. Because he's been sort of right in between the MCU and the X-Men.
Right, yeah.
For all of his movies, and so roping him in now seems like an odd choice.
It really does, and I honestly don't think they're gonna put it in there. And if they do ever show how he got those scars, it's probably gonna be something like a space dog, like how they had Nick Fury lose his eye from the Flurkin, goose. Yeah. And let's see.
I want to know how I got these scars.
Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. Yeah, you trusted a space cat. What did you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how they took that really badass line from Winter Soldier, and they just made it a cat.
Like, there was so many good opportunities for that because he said last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. And literally the movie you're showing him losing that eye in involves shape-shifting aliens.
Yeah.
Like...
And they decided to make it a cat to make it a, funny, haha,
Yeah. Although, to be fair, I did like Goose.
Yeah, I love Goose.
Goose was amazing.
Goose was hilarious. And I love any character that's a cat.
Yeah.
When you take a pet and you give it like actual character and writing behind it, that makes it so much easier for the audience to just latch onto it. And I
totally agree. Yeah, it's amazing. Let's see. Oh yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special trailer.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great trailer. I loved it. Drax and Mantis, it looks like, are going to be the two main characters of that movie.
Dude, hell yes.
Yeah, and I don't know. Did you see the trailer?
No, I haven't yet.
Yeah, so they have like that. They have like the starring like Kraglin, Nebula, Star-Lord, and then eventually they get to Drax and Mantis, and then they have also introducing Kevin Bacon. Because the plot of this movie is that Peter Quill is so depressed about losing Gamora that Drax and Mantis decide to cheer him up by going to Earth and kidnapping Kevin Bacon as a Christmas present.
That's the plot?
That's what the plot seems like of this movie.
That is going to be fantastic. I cannot wait.
Yeah, so like Kevin Bacon is in the trailer and you can see him just running along the sidewalk from Drax and Mantis because he's like they knock on his door and they're like, "Hi, are you Kevin Bacon?" And Kevin Bacon's like, "Who are you?"
And I'm really looking forward to more comic movies just having completely unhinged plots because that's what the comics were. Every comic has crazy, amazing, weird plot, and having a comic movie sort of, I don't know, pay homage to that or just do that it's what I want. I want absurdity.
Yeah. That's kind of what I liked about What If. And I feel like this was one of the shortfallings of What If, was I think it would have been much better if they kept it as individual stories and not tried to tie them all together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, because I love seeing the idea of like, what if Hank Pym became the Yellow Jacket and just killed everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's insane to me. And like the Doctor Strange episode, it's such a good self-contained episode that I feel like they kind of ruined it by trying to tie it all together.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, you didn't have to tie it all together for it to work. Like, you still could have showed that individual Captain Carter episode and then put her in Multiverse of Madness, and everybody still would have known that it's just a different version of that character.
Yeah, everyone would have been able to put it together.
Right, yeah. And, like, the plot for season 2 of What If sounds so good, and I'm just worried that they're going to ruin it again by trying to tie it all together.
Yeah.
Like, I love Jeffrey Wright as Uatu, and I think he's a great narrator. It's just the fact that they were trying to bring it all together just kind of made it weird.
Yeah.
And I didn't necessarily like that. But yeah, what else do I have here?
The tying everything together, I think, is sort of a symptom of how, like, interested people used to really be in the sort of tie-ins. Like, in Iron Man 1, there was... Or no, it was Iron Man 2. In Iron Man 2, there was the teaser at the end for the Thor movie, and everyone loved that. And so that sort of, like, ballooned into what we now see as the MCU, and now everything has to have tie-ins.
Yeah. Right.
She-Hulk has, the Daredevil in it, and a bunch of other, like, little Easter egg things for, people who are into the comics. But it feels like they're doing too much, Right.
You've gone from this point of, like, having interconnectivity is a good thing to having too much interconnectivity is a bad thing. And, like, I'm not saying, like, connecting the stuff isn't good. Like, you should connect it. It's just have it be more subtle and don't, like, stuff everything that you can into this. Like, I mean, I loved the way that they tied She-Hulk into Hawkeye. Like, it's a blinking you'll miss it moment, but the logo of Bishop Security is on a phone. That's that's the kind of tie-ins that I like. And that's what I liked about like the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too. Because when it first came out...
I freaking love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
They were these like own self-contained stories, but you could tell that it was in the background of the wider universe because they put in these subtle references to everything.
Yeah, and then later on, after Captain America Winter Soldier and like the Triskelion falling and all that, they actually worked it into the story of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it was like, yes!
Yeah, that's an example of a good tie-in. Like, a big event that will affect everything should affect these characters.
Yeah.
It's just, like, don't try and stuff, like, connections to these, like, minor events that these characters would have no idea about.
Yeah.
Like, and I like, understand trying to tie everything together. It's just, when you do that too much, it feels like it becomes oversaturated.
Yeah, it's stifling because you're just constantly being reminded of all the other things that either you have watched or have not watched yet, and you're like, oh, I have to go watch that to understand this reference.
Right, yeah. I agree. And I think you get that sometimes with, like, putting too many characters into something, too many returning characters at least, is they'll make jokes to other things that you can't necessarily understand. Whereas, like, if you just put in, like, a logo of something, or, like, this one character offhandedly mentions something that, like, as a new audience member, you would be like, oh, that's something. But, like, if you were, like, deeper into the universe, you'd be like, oh, that's cool. But it would still work on both levels.
Yeah.
Like, the references that the characters make can't be too specific that you feel like you're out of the loop and that you need to go back and watch everything.
Or they're talking about things that everyone is out of the loop on.
Right, yeah.
In Avengers 1, Black Widow and Hawkeye are constantly making references to Budapest.
Yeah.
And we are never told what went down in Budapest.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's an in-joke that we're not a part of, but we can still laugh at because of the context that they're talking about it in.
Yeah, it took us, I think, it took us 9 years to find out what happened in Budapest, because they put that in Black Widow. So, like, it was still kind of funny, though.
Yeah.
And, like, they can make that joke, and you could be like, oh, what happened in Budapest? And that became, like, one of the biggest mysteries of the MCU was what happened in Budapest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually really funny. My mom would make jokes about that. Like, whenever we were all in, like, a situation that was, like, really hectic, she would be, oh, it's just like Budapest. And we would all start laughing because it's stupid and it's funny and I loved it.
Yeah. That's the kind of interconnectivity that I like. And, like, there are these subtle references in, like, the newer Marvel shows, too, that, like, those are examples of good references, but there are also, like, they're mixed in with, like, the oversaturated kind of references. But, like, in Miss Marvel, they're in a temple, and the temple is a Ten Rings temple, but they don't say it's a Ten Rings temple. Mm-hmm. You can just see the logo on the floor. That's the kind of references that are, like, interesting.
That like, chill background references is what I really love, because it's like an Easter egg in a video game. You know, you have to, like, hunt around and find them and look at every little symbol and be like, oh, is it this? Is it this? And then when you finally find something, you're like, oh my God, it's this. Oh my God.
Right, yeah.
You know, but when characters are like, oh yeah, we're in a Ten Rings temple right now, it's like, really?
Yeah, that kind of felt forced. But the fact that it was just the logo on the floor is what made it feel so connected.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like the characters explicitly saying, oh, we're in this thing from that one thing. Do you remember? Almost, kind of. And it's, like, kind of ridiculous. But yeah. So I hope they move more away from that. And that actually touches on, like, something I'm going to talk about later with the Halloween special that they released, because I feel like they did a really good job with that. And it was, like, I'll talk a bit more about it later, but it was, like, completely, like, standalone. And, like, if you just watched it and you didn't see the Marvel logo, I don't think you would have any idea that it was a Marvel movie. Or at least just from, like, if you didn't know anything about the characters or about the comics and you didn't know that it was Marvel, you couldn't tell from watching it that it was Marvel because, well, okay, I guess you could, because there is this one picture of the Avengers in the beginning, but that's the only reference to anything outside of the thing, and that's what I really appreciated about that. But I'll get into a bit more about that later. There are a few things I have on here. Jerry Lee Lewis died. He's the guy that wrote that song, Great Balls of Fire. They sung it in Top Gun.
I heard about that.
Yeah. He died. That was kind of sad. Harrison Ford was cast as Thunderbolt Ross after William Hurt died. Mm-hmm. So they recasted his character, and Harrison Ford is going to play General Ross in Captain America: New World Order and in Thunderbolts.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that movie where that team of Thunderbolts, half of them carry shields, and I feel like that's really funny.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
The Shield Squad.
The Shield Squad, even though Shield doesn't exist anymore, but it's shields as in the literal shields, not the actual organization Shield. Michael Waldron is directing Avengers Secret Wars. So Michael Waldron wrote Loki, and he wrote Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Nice.
I didn't like the ending of Loki.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone liked the ending of Loki.
It felt so much like a setup. It was just kind of hard to believe that it was the end of like it didn't wrap up the current story. It more set up the second season, and I did not appreciate that.
And like there's also the like weird I'm going to pull out a word from Tumblr and say self-cessed because like Loki and what was her name?
Sylvie.
Loki and Sylvie are like into each other, and it's weird because like they're the same person.
Yeah, like that surprised me so much that Disney somehow allowed that to be on their streaming service.
Yeah.
Cuz I don't know, it was just so weird. And I was like, this would be good if they weren't the exact same person.
Yeah, they're literally just different gender clones of each other.
Yeah.
Like, at the DNA level, they have the same parents. They were born at the same time. They're basically twins.
Yeah.
It's so awful, and yet they just let it happen for some reason, and I hate it.
Yeah. It was really weird to think about. So I don't know how I feel about Michael Waldron writing Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the Avengers movie before that, the Kang Dynasty, that one I think will be good only because it has the director of Shang-Chi. So Destin Daniel Crichton, I think is how you pronounce his name, is he's going to direct that. And I really love Shang-Chi. So I'm excited to see that from him. But I genuinely am kind of afraid of Michael Waldron writing Secret Wars.
I feel like it's either going to be like really, really great, or it's going to be complete terribleness and nobody is going to enjoy it.
Yeah, like I genuinely think I enjoyed like the Infinity Saga more than I'm enjoying this Multiverse Saga. Because I feel like the Multiverse Saga is them just trying to put in cameos from other people.
Yeah.
And like it works sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't. Like it worked when they brought the 3 Spider-Men back for No Way Home. I really loved No Way Home.
No Way Home is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I will fight anyone who disagrees with that because it is such a fucking good movie.
Yeah, it's so good. And I think I saw that movie like 4 times in theaters. And then I saw the re-release when they added like 12 new minutes of footage.
Mm-hmm.
The 12 new minutes of footage isn't anything special. It's just kind of a lot more funny.
Yeah.
And they have like, there's more scenes with Betty Brant, and she's doing like the Midtown News. Mm-hmm. And she's got that really bad animation behind her because it's a high school newsroom. And I thought that was really funny. But yeah, that movie it's so amazing. And like
high school newsrooms. My high school didn't have a newsroom, but my middle school had a newsroom.
Oh yeah?
And it was so terrible. I was actually on it once. I found it looked like a bee. But it wasn't actually a bee. I like looked it up. It's something called like a stump stabber. And it has this like big long stinger that uses to like bury its eggs in like stumps and stuff. And for some reason I thought, oh, the school will want to see this. It's really cool. And so I went on the like morning news of my school and I showed everyone this like grotesque looking insect. And yeah, I didn't have any friends.
Yeah, my high school didn't have a newsroom. We barely even had like student media. At my high school, we had one newspaper club my senior year, and I was their senior film editor.
Nice.
Or senior film critic. And mainly because I was the only person who was a film critic, but also because I was a senior in high school. So that was like, we never had a newsroom, but I thought it was really funny that they purposely made the animation for that like terrible. Like you can see her outline and that she's using a green screen. I really enjoyed that because I love it when
Do you think they hired actual high schoolers to do it?
That would be hilarious
That
if
would
they
be
hired
amazing.
actual high schoolers to
They
do that.
probably didn't, but I can hope, can't I?
You can hope. Yeah, like I grew up with Spider-Man. Like when Homecoming came out, Peter was a freshman and I was a freshman, and by the time Peter was in No Way Home, he was a senior and I was a senior in high school. So I literally grew up with the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like as he was going through his movies. And I honestly think that like the Spider-Man trilogy in the MCU is probably the best trilogy of like the MCU trilogies. Like there are a lot of good ones. Like
I'm a big fan of the Iron Man trilogy.
The Iron Man trilogy,
I think it's because I have a lot of nostalgia from it.
The Iron Man trilogy I really like. I don't understand why people don't like the third one for some reason.
Yeah, me neither. I really enjoyed the third.
Yeah, the second one though kind of feels like there were too many plot lines going on in the second one. Like what was
happening in the second one?
There was the relationship between Tony and Pepper. There was the relationship between Tony and his father. There was Whiplash. There was like Justin Hammer. There was Tony's alcoholism. There was James Rhodes trying to like get the suit and whatnot. And I just felt like it was too much for that runtime.
Yeah, it's a little much, but I mean, personally, I really enjoyed it.
The Captain America trilogy, I think might be better than the Spider-Man trilogy. Because, like, I really liked the first Avenger, and I loved The Winter Soldier and Civil War. I thought those were both amazing movies.
I'll be honest, I don't really like Civil War that much.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was stupid that, you know, Iron Man and Captain America are fighting because they have this disagreement about who they should be fighting, and it seemed forced. It seemed like, you know, where the idea of a Civil War comes from is like when comics were comics, people would be like, oh, well, I think Thor could beat Iron Man, or I think Iron Man could beat Captain America. And so the comic writers are like, well, how do we incorporate this into the stories that we're writing? And so they created these like Civil War arcs where, you know, you'll have all the characters fighting each other and people will be like, oh my God, I'm so happy to see them fighting, da da da. And it was kind of forced back then, and I think it's even more forced now. My stepmom actually has a really strong opinion about Civil War. She won't let my little brother see it because she thinks it's too stupid of the heroes to be fighting each other over this stuff and just like blowing stuff up because they have a disagreement.
Yeah, that's fair. And like they address that a little bit in the movie too, because General Ross, who in that movie is played by William Hurt, is like, because Tony says that he can bring in Cap, Bucky, and Sam, and General Ross is kind of just like, why would I let you do that after you screwed the last thing up?
Yeah.
And then Tony's like, give me 12 hours, and General Ross is kind of like, oh, right, fine, 12 hours. But yeah, I see that point of view, but I still think, I really like that movie. I still think it's well written. The acting is great, and the visual effects I think are amazing. And that airport battle scene,
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
The acting and visual effects are pretty fantastic.
Yeah, and like the airport battle scene, I think is one of my favorite battle scenes in the entire MCU. Like that's so good. And like it's not like they forget any characters are there either. Like they make sure that each character has like their own kind of screen time, yet they don't take away from Captain America's story. Because that's why they called it Captain America Civil War, not like Avengers Civil War, is because at the core of Civil War, it was Cap's story.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they did a good job of giving the other characters enough screen time so that they didn't feel forgotten, but also not too much screen time so that it took away from Captain America's story.
Yeah, like you had the bit with Hawkeye recruiting Black Widow.
Yeah.
No, wait, not Black Widow.
Wanda.
Wanda.
Yeah.
God, wrong color thing. Scarlet Witch, Black Widow.
Yeah.
Anyway, Scarlet Witch. You know, there was that like short little scene of him like stealing her away from Vision and all that.
Yeah.
And there were a bunch of like little things like that really like showed everyone doing their own thing.
Yeah.
But also, the main focus was on Cap.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're totally right. The airport battle scene is so great because it's like a two-way team fight.
Yeah.
You know, you've got Team Cap and Team Iron Man, and they're fighting. Everyone gets their moment to shine. Everyone gets like a witty conversation to have, and it's so great. Like it's good shit, man.
And I was also so impressed because they also managed to like. I feel like they did a great job introducing Spider-Man and Black Panther because they were both introduced in that movie. And
oh yeah, right.
Yeah, they also introduced Everett Ross, who is not related to Thaddeus Ross. I found out after the movie came out because I thought that was his son, but apparently they're not related at all. They just have the same last name.
They just have the same last name?
Yeah.
The CIA guy?
Yeah, the CIA guy and the Secretary of State have the same last name, but no relationship at all.
I mean, at least that's like real life accurate.
Yeah, it is real life accurate, and I kind of appreciate that.
Yeah.
And like, because Everett Ross became like a big part of Black Panther, and he's in this new Black Panther movie that's coming out, Wakanda Forever, and he's also in Secret Invasion.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a little beanie on. It's Martin Friedman.
Yeah, dude, Martin Freeman's great.
He's amazing.
Genuinely one of my favorite actors.
Yeah. Anyway, there's I only have 2 other pieces of news here. Kelly Marcel is directing Venom 3. She was a writer on Venom 1 and 2, and she wrote Mr. Banks, and she also wrote 50 Shades of Grey. So those are her writing credits. So she's directing Venom 3.
Oh, the movie. I thought you meant the book.
No. The movie. She wrote the script for the movie.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's a new series on Hulu called Interior Chinatown. I just wrote this down because I thought it was interesting. It's directed by Taika Waititi, and it's got Chloe Bennett, Ronnie Chang, and Jimmy O Yang.
Okay.
So Chloe Bennett played Quake in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ronnie Chang.
That's where I recognize that from.
Ronnie Chang and Jimmy O Yang were both in Crazy Rich Asians, and they're both comedians. Mm-hmm. Ronnie Chang is a correspondent on The Daily Show, which is a great show. I love that show. It's hilarious. And Jimmy O Yang had his own stand-up special at one point. So they're going to be in this show called Interior Chinatown, and apparently it's about an Asian American actor who like experiences things both in his work and outside of his work.
What do you mean by things?
I think it's discrimination. I read the IMDb thing, but I'm
looking it up again.
I don't remember. Yeah, I'm looking it up again. Just give me 1 second. IMDb. The show is called Interior Chinatown, and I spelled that wrong the first time, actually. Okay.
You opened up the source code of the page.
Please, just work. Oh.
Professional podcast.
Yep. Okay, so the description reads... the story of an Asian American actor struggling against cliched roles and stereotypes both at work and in his personal life. So I don't know who the main character is. Chloe Bennett's playing someone called Lana Lee, Detective Lana Lee. Oh, Jimmy O Yang, I think, is the main character. His name's Willis Wu. And then Ronnie Chang is playing somebody called Fatty Choi. That's kind of a... Is Taika Waititi Asian? I know he's Australian, but like
I thought he was New Zealander.
Is he? He might. Yeah, actually, I think you're right. I think he's a New Zealander. But that's kind of weird that this show is not directed by an Asian person. But I don't know. Taika Waititi, I think, is pretty okay at directing.
Yeah. I like a lot of his stuff.
He gave us Ragnarok and Love and Thunder.
He gave us Ragnarok. He gave us Love and Thunder. He gave us What We Do in the Shadows, both the movie and the TV show. He gave us Hunt for the Wilder People, which is fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
God, I love Hunt for the Wilder People. Yeah, it's so good.
He's doing he's supposed to direct a Star Wars movie at one point.
What?
Yeah, like they said that I think at D23. They were giving him a movie to direct, and they didn't say what the title of the movie was, just that he was directing it.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, we can move on to the main portion of the show now. I think there was like half an hour of news.
Yeah,
it's like a lot of news. It's fine.
It's about 34 minutes.
Yeah. I don't think I have to worry about this being under an hour. My goal was for it to be like 1 to 2 hours, and I think that we're gonna hit that mark, and we might even be a little bit over 2 hours, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how fast we go through this horror.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. Okay, so we have both come up with our top 5 horror movies, and before we get into that, we're going to kind of talk about what makes a good horror movie, what makes a bad horror movie, and then we'll get into talking about some specific horror movies that we enjoy. So I made like a list here. I wrote things down in this very old notebook that my grandpa had because he worked for he worked for Con Edison, which is it's like a utilities company in New York. So I don't know. That's a very weird thing about my notebook, but whatever. Yeah. So we can start by talking about the good first. This is what I think makes up a good horror movie is when they build suspense correctly.
Yeah.
The characters actually have development and they're not forgettable. And then obviously the scores and the visuals help a lot with good horror movies. And then obviously having a great villain for a horror movie is essential.
So personally, I didn't write down anything that could like apply to anything. So
right, yeah.
You know, every movie needs good visuals. Every movie needs good music. I wrote having good atmosphere.
And
like building that sense of dread and all that. You know, really helps sort of amp up the horror part, and then also keeping the monster hidden. Like you have to not see the monster in every scene for it to be scary, because with repetition comes normalization. So if you're seeing it in every scene, people aren't going to be fucking scared of it anymore.
Right.
It's just going to be the monster. It's like, oh no, the monster's here. Oh no, what will we do now? We'll have to run again.
Yeah, no, that's something a lot of like my favorite horror movies have in common is you don't see the monster that often, and when you do see it, that's what makes it more creepy is because you're not seeing it all the time.
Yeah,
and it's just there, which I think is one of like the best parts about a horror movie is that it also helps build suspense in that way because you're not seeing it the entire time. It's used sparingly and correctly, which is what makes it even more scary.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, we can talk about the bad now. So I think like bad things I have written down here. I forgot what JS. Oh, yeah, I remember what that stands for. Overused jump scares.
Oh my god, jump scares are the worst.
When a horror movie has too many jump scares, like jump scares can work, but you have to use them in a correct way, and you can't use them all the time.
You can use it like maybe 2 or 3 times maximum, and that's for like a longer horror movie.
Yeah, and it's just like if you have jump scares and you use them too much, at some point you're just scaring your audience, and your audience isn't even thinking about the movie anymore.
Yeah,
they're just like. They're expecting it to come, and it might become at some point even like where the jump scare loses its effect is because you know that the jump scare is coming because it's used too often.
Definitely, yeah.
The other thing I have here is poor writing. Poor writing and poor dialogue are the other two things I have listed.
Yeah,
and I feel like some horror movies focus too much on like the villain. And that the other characters don't have good writing or good development. And the dialogue that they have is clunky because the focus isn't on the dialogue, which is not great because you need good dialogue to have a good movie.
Yeah. If we're supposed to be scared of whatever monster the characters saw and they're going, oh my god, I'm so scared right now. I can't believe it looked like that. Then we're not going to be scared because it just sounds goofy. You know, it sounds like they're reading off a script or something. Yeah. And like I saw this commercial the other day. I think it was for I think it was an Allstate commercial. And it was like a horror thing. And they had like this group of 4 people who ran out of a cornfield. And the girl was like, oh, we need to hide. And then the guy's like, why don't we take that running car? And then the girl looks at him and goes, no, are you crazy? Let's go hide behind the chainsaws. I'm like, yeah, these characters, like,
when you make poor decisions in a horror movie, it's just you end up thinking, why are you making this decision and not another decision? And then you lose the focus on the horror aspect and on the villain, and instead you're just focusing on how stupid the characters are.
It turns into a moron plot.
Yeah, exactly.
Where like every single thing happens because someone was an idiot, and it's so frustrating because anyone with common sense would be like, "You idiot! Why are you doing that?" Like,
yeah, no, I totally agree.
It makes it so frustrating to watch, and completely ruins the experience.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, and like that's why I don't necessarily like. I love to watch good horror movies, but a lot of the horror movies now have become more of, I'm gonna jump scare you. I'm gonna make a poor decision so I can jump scare you again.
Yeah,
and like that is what I dislike about more of these newer horror movies. I mean, there are some good newer horror movies. But some of them are just like, why would you make that decision? Just stop jump scaring because it's not working at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, are you ready to go over our top 5 lists?
Sure.
All right.
I didn't like list mine as a top 5. It's just like 5 horror movies that I really freaking love.
Yeah, it's fine.
I didn't like rank them or anything.
I did. It's fine that you didn't rank them. We can just go over them. We can talk about them one by one. So I have some honorable mentions here. I have The Hunt. The Hunt came out, I think in 2020, right before the pandemic started. It was about a group of Democrats who captured a whole bunch of Republicans, put them in a field, and was hunting them.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was. I thought it was pretty interesting, just from like how the movie is structured and the concept. Like the ending is something that you wouldn't expect, and I liked that because I couldn't predict what was going to happen. There were also a couple of funny points in that movie. There's an actor in it. I forgot his name. He plays a teacher on a show called AP Bio, and I forgot his name. But he's in that movie. I think Julia Roberts is in this movie too. I don't remember if Julia Roberts is in this movie, and I'm not going to look it up. But I thought that was a really interesting horror movie, and that was kind of the first horror movie that I saw in a while, back when I first watched it, because I watched it when it came out in theaters. Mm-hmm. I actually thought that movie was kind of interesting and pretty good. There weren't too many jump scares. The writing is kind of not great, but I did like the story. And it ended up being interesting. That's why I have it here. Also, The Purge, not the movie. There's a show on Hulu called The Purge. There are 2 seasons. Both of them are 10 episodes long. Mm-hmm. The main cast switches between the first and second season, so it's not the same. But I did like that show, and I thought it was really interesting. So I would recommend that if you have Hulu. I'm pretty sure it's still on Hulu. But yeah, I watched it, and it was kind of creepy, and I liked it. I also have A Quiet Place, the one with Emily Blunt and John Krasinski. I think John Krasinski directed both of them.
Oh.
But I'm talking about the first one mainly. I did like A Quiet Place. The monsters are creepy. I like the fact that they can't speak. And it gives like an interesting aspect to how they like get around. You can see them putting sand on the ground and stuff. And then I have Get Out. That's my last honorable mention. Jordan Peele directed that movie. I just thought it was great. It was really creepy, and I loved seeing it. And I love it when Jordan Peele does horror, because he also did that movie that came out. I haven't seen it yet, but it's called Nope.
Yeah,
I've heard good things about it. Yeah, I've heard good things about it. It's got Daniel Kaluuya, I think. I don't remember how to pronounce his name. But yeah, so I've heard good things about that movie, and I'm excited to see it if I ever do get the chance. Anyway, my first one here that I have is Werewolf by Night. That's what I have at number 5. Werewolf by Night is that Halloween special that I was talking about that came out on Disney Plus for Marvel. And I did like the aspect that you wouldn't be able to tell if it was a Marvel movie except for that picture of the Avengers at the beginning. But basically, it's about this werewolf.
Okay.
And the guy who is the werewolf has disguised himself as a monster hunter to keep from being hunted. And he's responsible for something like 100 and something kills, and everybody else in the group has like anywhere from 20 to 50. So like having 100 kills is pretty significant. And the plot of this is that there's this guy named Ulysses Bloodstone who was the leader of the monster hunting group.
Mm-hmm.
He dies, and they're having a monster hunting like ceremony to see who becomes the new leader.
So it's like a competition
to hunt the monster.
Successor.
Yeah. And like he's in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. But the monster they're hunting is Man-Thing.
Mm.
And Man-Thing is really interesting. In the comics, his head was in Thor Ragnarok, and he got a mention in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. And it's really funny in this because there's a funny moment because Jack Russell, the guy who's Werewolf by Night, he is friends with Man-Thing, and he's there to rescue him. So it's really funny because he teams up with Elsa Bloodstone, who's the daughter of Ulysses Bloodstone. Elsa Bloodstone doesn't believe in the monster hunting life, so they team up to help free Man-Thing. And I think it's really funny because she asks him how she can communicate with him, and he goes, "Just speak to him. Make sure you say his name." She goes, "What's his name?" He goes, "Ted."
Ted.
And it was a really funny moment because in the comics his name is Ted Salas.
Okay.
So that actually is his name in the comics, and I thought it was really funny. And the other thing I really liked about this, and this is like the main horror aspect that I liked about this, it's shot in all black and white.
Okay.
And it's reminiscent of the 1930s horror movies. So I'm not sure how they shot this, but they did a really good job because the camera, when it's running, it's all in black and white, and you can kind of see these you can see the dust on the lens of the camera, and like the scratches and how it kind of like flickers like that old film reel used to do.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really clever, and it really worked in the show's favor because you have these shots that you have these shots in like battle scenes and the scene where he's transforming, where that kind of camera work just adds to everything else. And it adds to the environment. And it makes you feel like you're back in the 1930s with this kind of scary horror movie that even though you knew it was a movie, it still scared you.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really clever. And there's no color in this at all except for the 2 minutes at the end where they changed the color. The only other color other than that is the actual Bloodstone gem that's in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That has like a little tint of red. And that is the only color. And I thought that was really clever.
Neat.
Yeah. It's directed by Michael Giacchino. This is his first directing credit. So he was the composer for a lot of Marvel music. So he composed this as well. And I think that's like this will come up again in another movie that we're going to talk about later. But I think it really works when the director is able to also be the composer, because you don't have to have that conversation with the composer and there's like no miscommunication because you are the composer and you know where this music is supposed to fit in, to have this aspect of the movie, the score specifically, to set up what's happening in the movie. Mm-hmm. And you have full control over that. And I think it works really well here. And I think Michael Giacchino is an amazing director. So I would like to see his work again, maybe on another Marvel horror project like Midnight Suns or something, something more along that supernatural nature. Because this is like, there's blood in this, like actual blood. And I think they got away with it because they shot it in black and white. That way the blood wasn't red. I think that's how they were able to put it on Disney Plus. But I like this like violent Marvel. Like it's it's violent Marvel, and I like it. And it's sort of like Daredevil or The Punisher, where there's just blood everywhere, and I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, in Daredevil, it's like every episode ends with him covered in bandages.
Yeah, and in The Punisher, I think like The Punisher is a very, very bloody show. And like there's this one scene where like the guy or where Frank Castle just takes a drill and puts it into someone's knee.
Oh.
Like that show, like I'm just like rubbing my knee even thinking about it, but like I like that kind of bloody aspect of Marvel. And that's something that the movies haven't really done because they've been PG-13. But like the TV MA Marvel stuff like Daredevil and Punisher, and I think technically this is also rated TV MA because it's a television special technically, not a movie.
There's also Jessica Jones.
Yeah, Jessica Jones was really good too. All the Netflix stuff was TV MA. So I kind of like that kind of like more adult version of Marvel.
Yeah.
That it's not just for like teenagers who have the PG-13 restriction on their computer. But yeah. Anyway, what about you? What do you have?
Yeah. So it's not like exactly a horror movie, but when I looked up, when I looked it up, it was categorized as a horror movie, and that's 9.
I don't think I've ever heard of that one. What is it?
It's this little. I don't know like any of the voice actors or director or anything like that, but it's the story post-apocalyptic. You have these little automaton guys called Stitch Punks, and there's 9 of them, and we follow our protagonist to number 9 as he wakes up and then meets up with the rest, and then there's this big monster thing, and I think it does a good job with the atmosphere, just being really like depressing, because every location that they're in is like a bombed out city or a war-torn battleground or a defunct factory or a burned down church. Everything has this like old, decrepit, ruined feel to it, and that makes it so much more intense when one of the monsters show up. There's various like monsters sent out to find them and take them to this factory place. Each one is like made of like whatever was on hand by the like master constructor robot thing, and so one of them is like a bird with a what's it called, a harpoon gun.
Oh,
like in its face. And then there's also one that's like this big snake thing with one of their dead friends inside of it, that it uses to like stun them, and then it like stitches them into itself to bring them back, and it's really fucked up, and I love it. It is one of my favorite movies as a kid. Really great. It doesn't keep the like monsters that hidden. Like the bird is, it's just there. The snake one though, the snake is like kept really hidden, and you like see it like slithering through the bushes occasionally, and there's all this tension right before it strikes, and it's good shit. I love it.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that at some point. Is it live action or animated?
Animated.
Okay,
yeah.
It's animated. All right.
3D animation, but the art direction is amazing, and the animation quality itself is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it.
Oh wow, nice. What's that on? What can I watch it on?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. I think it's on. It's let me just pull it up right here.
There should be like a section that says watch movie.
Oh, all watch options.
Oh.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, Apple TV. Okay.
Yeah, basically you can.
Oh, it's on Amazon. All right, I'll probably get it
for like
from
$4 on anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
It's really good stuff. I don't know like how to talk about it really, because it really wasn't that well known when it was first put out. It was put out between like a few other really popular movies, and so it didn't get that much attention. But it had like a whole ARG associated with it, that like I think like either a couple months ago or like a year or so ago there was a post from the original ARG account, and so there might be like a new one coming soon. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I'd love it if there was, because I just want more of this world. It's so fucking cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a nice movie. All right. At number 4, I have one that a lot of people didn't like, but personally, I thought it was a really good movie. And that's Bird Box. It came out on Netflix, I think, back in 2018.
Yeah.
But it's got Sandra Bullock, and I think it's really amazing because you never actually see the monster like throughout the entire thing, because the plot of it is that you can't see it, and if you do see it, you're going to go insane and kill yourself.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really good movie. It had like a whole cast of like characters that were in this house, and what I really that like just came out. Okay,
I don't know why it does that.
Yeah, that's
context,
strange.
Listeners, there are 2 lights in the room that we're in, and one of them just flicked on without us doing anything. So I don't know what causes that to happen, but it happened last time I was in here. So I don't know, man.
Real horror podcast.
Yeah,
we're about to get murdered in this podcast studio.
Hell yeah, man.
If someone ever finds this, we've been murdered. Unless you hear this on the internet, in which case I made it out and I posted it.
Or the killer posted it.
Or the killer posted it and just wants to make sure that no one comes and finds me. I'm sure if I go missing, someone will notice at some point, maybe. Yeah. Probably not. I'm getting my hopes up. Anyway, so like what I really appreciated about Bird Box was that it focused on the psychological aspect of a group of people surviving this disaster scenario. And what everybody did, because there's like this kind of older man that like doesn't want to help other people, and he thinks it's a risk to the people who are already in the house. And what I just turned off again. That's interesting. What happens is that eventually he's proven right to be cautious. And I really like the development of his character, even though he's only in like the first half of it. And then the second half is
the light turned on.
The light turned on again. And then the second half of Bird Box is them traveling from where they're living, the wife and 2 kids, to this like school for the blind, which I thought was interesting. But I really like the aspect of these monsters because you can tell they're there from the noises, but you can't see them. And I think that's really interesting because you see drawings of them as like what the crazy person, like there's a crazy person in this who's seen the monsters, and he's so insane that he can see the monsters and he tries to make other people see the monsters. So he
light
just
turned off again.
Yes, this light is amazing.
It's haunting us.
So it's he tries to make other people see the monsters, and he has drawings of the monsters, and they're just like, it's just like this generic scary like black figure. But I think that's really good because it leaves the appearance of these monsters ambiguous.
Yeah.
And up to your own imagination of what they're going to come up with. So that's what I really appreciated about this movie. Also, there's an actor in this who was, I thought it was really funny because when I saw him, all I could think of was, that's Kurt from Ant-Man.
Ha.
So he's the like Russian guy, like that's part of the Louise, Dave, and Kurt, who's part of that heist crew.
Yeah.
And all I could think of was, oh, that's Kurt from Ant-Man. And he's supposed to be like this guy who's hunting, who's trying to make people see, and he's got like a gun. And he's only in it for like maybe 2 minutes. But I just thought it was funny.
Yo, it's the guy from Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Bird Box.
Yeah.
Bird Box is one of those movies that came out in the like disability horror movie craze.
Yeah.
Like there's that one. There's Mute, I think is what it's called, where her house gets broken into, but she can't hear anything. And and then there's A Quiet Place where they can't talk, and like there's a whole like genre of horror movies where it's just people are suddenly people who weren't disabled are suddenly disabled, and like now they have to survive this horrific situation, or it's horrific things happening to disabled people, and I'd love I'd love a horror movie where the main character has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and just has to like waddle away from the monster like I would. That would be great. I'd love the representation.
So what do you have for your fourth one?
I have Alien and Aliens. I sort of got 2 for that.
Yeah, that's what I have for my number 3 actually.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so we can talk about that at the same time. Why don't you go first?
Okay.
Yeah.
I fucking love Aliens.
Yeah.
It's by Aliens I mean the first Alien movie and the second Alien movie.
Yeah.
They're really great for building suspense and not seeing the monster all the time, and it sort of set a bar for horror movies that kind of exists to this day, where it's like, okay, but is it as good as Alien?
Yeah.
Because it's just so good. I don't know how to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean Sigourney Weaver, for Aliens, which is the second one. Also, I find it kind of funny that the 2 first Aliens movies, the first one is called Alien, the second one is called Aliens. Plural.
Well, it's because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, it's because there's a lot of them. Sigourney Weaver actually got nominated for an award for her performance in the second movie, which back then a lot of sci-fi movies didn't have any like people being nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah, because it was new and people didn't consider it real cinema.
Yeah, but she won an award for that, and I think she totally deserves it because she was amazing in those movies.
Oh yeah.
Ian Holm is in that movie. He played Bilbo Baggins. The old Bilbo Baggins, not the Martin Friedman version.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he played the old version. He's an android in Alien.
Right.
Yeah. And like this is something that like until you find out he's an android, like if you go back and you watch it, you can totally tell he's an android only after you know that he's an android.
Yeah.
Because it's just like these little subtle things that he does that like would tip you off that he's an android only after you know that he's an android. If you didn't know that he was an android, it would just look like normal human movement. That might be slightly weird, but you're not focusing on it, so you don't notice it.
Yeah, but when you go back with the knowledge that he is an android, then you're like, oh shit, he's doing android things in the background right there.
Yeah. I remember when I watched Alien, the first one, I was in middle school, and there was like some new Alien movie that came out. I think it might have been like Alien versus Predator that came out.
Oh my god!
And I was like, hey, Dad, can I go see this movie? And my dad was like, you need to watch the original first. So he put on Alien, the first one, and I remember I was like a teenager. I think it was like maybe 13 or 14.
Yeah.
And I felt like so engrossed in the world, and like the visuals are amazing for what it was back in 1979. And like I felt like I was there in the ship, and when the face sucker alien attaches to the guy's face and he like burrs the alien from his chest.
Yeah.
It was just so powerful because of the visuals and the atmosphere, and it made you feel like you were actually in the room, part of that crew. And it became the standard for like good horror movies.
Yeah.
You're right. And I really loved that.
Something I absolutely adore about Alien and Aliens is the tech that's shown in the movie. It's all very like low tech. All of their screens are, cathode ray tubes.
Yeah.
And everything seems like, oh, the light turned on again. Okay, everything seems like old tech from like the 80s or whatever, but in space, and that just makes it such a great setting. And there are a ton of games and movies that have sort of aped that same sort of style, where you have like old tech in space, and it's so good.
Yeah, no, I agree. Those movies are great, and like the franchise kind of like took kind of a not so great turn at one point with when they added Predator and the whole kind of like
they made
integration
aliens,
of
like,
Alien
3
versus
and 4,
Predators.
and then AVP and
AVP 2.
Yeah, and then like I haven't seen Prometheus. I've heard from some people that it's good. I've heard from others that it's like terrible. So I don't know what to think about it.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen Prometheus either. I did watch Prey. It's that new Predator movie that came out on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
That one was really good, and I really liked that one. They shot it twice. They shot it once in English and once in Comanche, which I really appreciated because like they wouldn't be speaking English back then.
Yeah.
And the reason that they shot it in English was so that you could understand. But I really also appreciated that they shot it in Comanche because it just pays homage to those people who were actually there.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. And I thought it was a pretty good movie and probably the best, I would say, maybe the best or the second best Predator movie. Yeah, that one I really liked.
I really love the recording in like the language that would have been spoken at the time.
Yeah.
I love that because with a lot of movies, you know, they're in space or they're in the past or they're in the far future and they're still speaking normal like everyday English, like maybe with accents. You know, and that's it. So to have it completely recorded in the language that would have been spoken at that time it's great for I think it's great for realism, just because it makes it feel more real, you know.
Yeah.
If they were when they are speaking English, you're like, oh, but they wouldn't actually be speaking English back then, and it takes you out of the movie, and then you're sitting there in a movie theater watching a movie, not just experiencing the story. So to have it written and like produced and all of that in Comanche is fucking sick.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like that's one of the questions my dad asks every time I watch like a space movie with him is he goes, why are the aliens speaking English? I'm like, I don't know, Dad. But Marvel kind of got around this because they mentioned this thing in Guardians of the Galaxy that Star-Lord has an implant translator in his neck.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so he's got like a universal translator like that's implanted in his neck.
I don't remember
which is why he can understand a whole bunch of other languages. Yeah, it's not...
When was it mentioned?
It wasn't mentioned specifically, but when he's arrested and there's like that screen, there's a little thing on the side wall that says Universal Translator Implant.
Gotcha.
So he has one, and then there's like they also mention it in Captain Marvel, but no one remembers Captain Marvel, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But they mention it in Captain Marvel too, that she taps her wrist and she goes, "Is my universal translator working?" Even though she's speaking English, which I guess she would speak because she came from Earth. Yeah. But yeah, they found a creative way to get around that, and that's why at least Star-Lord and Captain Marvel can understand aliens. But also like in Shang-Chi, I think they found a creative way to get around that too. Because they do talk in Chinese for most of the movie, or not most of the movie, but a good portion of the movie they talk in Chinese, which I really appreciated. And the way they got around that was the character of Katie, because Katie, even though she is Chinese, does not speak Chinese, which means they have to speak in English for her to understand, which I really appreciated. Because they found a way to get around it that wasn't we're speaking in English so the audience can understand. It was an actual in-universe way for them to like speak Chinese, but also speak in English for the audience to understand. Yeah. I really liked that.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, we did my 3. So what's your third one?
My third one, I wrote down the Terminators just because I'm a sucker for classic sci-fi.
Oh yeah, Terminator's good.
Yeah, It's so good, like, to have the reveal that, like, okay, so to use the plot device that you need to be, like, covered in flesh to be teleported into the past, and then have it revealed, like, through all the damage he takes that Arnold is actually, like, a robot skeleton under all that, is just so great, because, like, you know, initially, when I was watching it, I thought, oh, he's he's like of like vat grown human with like an implant of like an AI in him or something.
Yeah.
And then it turns out, oh no, he's actually just a metal skeleton wearing some flesh.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
Yeah. And like my favorites are Terminator 1 and 2. Cuz by the time they made it to, I think it was Terminator Salvation is the third one.
Yeah.
By the time they hit Terminator Salvation, Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't even in that movie. They had someone at the end who kind of looked like him, but they just superimposed Arnold Schwarzenegger's face onto someone else. So it wasn't actually him.
Yeah.
And like, that's, I think, where the franchise kind of dropped because I didn't like Salvation. I liked Terminator 1 and I liked Terminator 2. And I actually did kind of like Terminator Genesis. But yeah, the first two are really the ones that I kind of like really enjoyed the most.
Something I really like absolutely hated about Terminator Genesis was in the trailers they had the new like Terminator guy like reforming with all the like black dust that he does. And that completely ruined the twist because for the first like third or 2/3 of the movie, he's like ostensibly on their side. And so to have him suddenly be evil, even though we already know it from the trailer, it just kind of ruined that for me.
Yeah, I can see that. And like I didn't really enjoy that newest Terminator movie that came out. I can't even remember the subtitle for that
Me
one.
neither.
It's the one that had Gabriel Luna in it. He was the Terminator. I don't remember what that was, and it's got like a good Terminator. Also, the timeline for Terminator
Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. There are like 6 different timelines in the Terminator franchise, and none of it just works at all.
Yeah, with just Terminator 1 and 2, it makes sense. You know?
Yeah, right,
Like,
yeah.
Fucking Skynet happens. They go back in the past to try and kill John Connor. Or no, try and kill Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then the Resistance sends a guy back in the past to protect her.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then successfully protect her. So then Skynet tries to go for her kid, John Connor.
Yep.
And the Resistance sends back an old Terminator. And so now you have the old Terminator versus the new Terminator.
Yeah.
And it makes sense.
Right, yeah.
And I haven't seen the third one, but I've heard that it just gets screwy and
It does.
unable to understand.
It does really get screwy. And like I really like the character of Sarah Connor. There's actually a TV show that they made with the same, I forgot her name, the girl who plays Sarah Connor in 1 and 2. But they made a TV show about her. It's called like the Sarah Connor Chronicles or something like that. I don't remember the exact name.
Yeah.
But I know they made a show about that. I haven't watched it. Apparently it's mid is what I've heard. But yeah, and like I like the character of Sarah Connor. I like the character of the Terminator, the T-1000, and of John Connor. I think what's John Connor's father's name? It's like Kyle. Is that his name? Is it Kyle?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. But yeah, yeah, those the first and second one are the two that I like the most because the timelines after that just get screwy. Yeah. I reviewed all of the Terminator movies at one point, and I remember watching it, and I was watching the third one, and I was like, the third one I was actually just kind of sitting there, and I was like, is this gonna end? Because
what is going on?
It was kind of just like it was happening, and I was like, at one point I was like, am I gonna get out of here? What time is it? Have I been here for 2 hours? And I don't even remember the runtime, so I don't even remember if it's close to 3 hours. But it felt like a lot more than 3 hours because the movie's just like not great. This is also when like there's like full body nudity in the third one, and it's rated PG.
What the fuck?
This is back when like the Motion Picture Association just had like no standards for anything. So like you could have blood and gore, and you could have like nudity and still have it be rated PG. I think Salvation was PG. I have to look that up actually because now I'm curious. I don't remember if it was PG or if it was PG-13, but it definitely should have been rated R.
Yeah.
Yeah, Terminator Salvation.
I'm pretty sure Genesis was 13 because I saw it when I was a kid in theaters.
Yeah, Genesis was after the Motion Picture Association started caring about what they put in their movies. Terminator.
Dang, MPA always, like, fucking limiting what you can say and stuff. Only one F word per PG-13 movie.
Yeah. What is... It's not telling me what this is rated.
If you have, like, anything more than a single, like, F-bomb, then it gets, like, operated because of excessive language. And it's like, what?
Oh, that's what that movie was. It was called Dark Fate. Was the last one.
Dark Fate? What?
Dark Fate. I forgot what.
Who comes up with the name Terminator Dark Fate?
Oh yeah. Okay, so it was rated PG-13. Although it should have been rated R. But yeah, Dark Fate's kind of like a weird title. I don't know how I feel about that.
6.5 out of 10 on
6.5 out of 10 on IMDb. It was fine. It just at one point I was like, this movie is just not good.
Just kept going.
Can you like end this, please?
Please, let me watch something else.
Let me watch something else, please. Yeah, but anyway, that was that's Terminator 3. But yeah, I agree. Like the Terminator movies are great horror, at least the first two. Yeah. Do you have any more thoughts about Terminator?
It's good.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's good. Okay, let's see. My number 2 is I have Halloween from 1978. So this is the first Halloween movie.
It's the original, right?
It's the original one that came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that movie was so culturally impactful, and like I just loved it so much. And it was even, I think, it tried to be inducted into I think it's the Film Hall of Fame when it first came out, because I forgot the name of the director for this movie.
I've seen a bunch of comparisons between the original Halloween and the new one, Halloween Kills.
Yeah, or no, Halloween Kills was the second one. This is Halloween Ends was the one that just came out.
Oh, Halloween Ends.
Yeah. John Carpenter.
John Carpenter.
Yeah,
yes,
so
man.
He was the one who directed the first Halloween movie.
He also directed The Thing.
Yeah, this is also what I like I was talking about earlier with Michael Giacchino about how he's both the director and the composer, because John Carpenter was the director and the composer for Halloween, and like that movie's music is so iconic. Like the main theme of the dun 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 dun. Yeah. And I actually remember I went to a percussion camp because my brother was in percussion and I was in this thing called Front Ensemble for Marching Band. And even though I didn't play percussion, I played electric bass. But I remember going to this percussion camp and I was learning mallets. So I was playing the marimba. And I learned how to play the Halloween theme on the marimba. And I at one point we had like a 15-minute break throughout like 3 hours of training. But when we were on the break, I went to the back of the room, shut off the stadium lights, and in the dark I was just playing the Halloween theme, and I loved it. Yeah. People. I was messing with people, and it was so amazing. But yeah, I love this movie. Like Michael Myers. Oh, so good.
Yeah, he's like an iconic horror villain.
Yeah, and he starts out like a little child, and the doctor in this, when he gives a speech about how, like, Michael Myers is just evil, he says, I could see evil in his eyes, and I'm like, yes, and like,
the eyes of a child.
Yeah, I even have like, I looked on, because I heard about this, but I couldn't remember the exact numbers. So this is like, I wrote this down. The budget for Halloween was about $300,000.
Damn.
Yeah. The box office, $47 million.
Yeah, I figured it was going to be in the 8 digits.
Yeah, $47 million this movie made off of a $300,000 budget. And like, $300,000 isn't a lot to make a movie.
Yeah.
And like you can kind of tell from like the effects and stuff, like the mask, even I think it worked well though, because the mask, even though it's so basic, is so terrifying.
Yeah.
And like if you see someone wearing that kind of like generic mask, even though it's so generic, it's still like it's still recognizable.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm
yeah.
looking something up.
Oh, it's all good. But yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I like Halloween so much. And like Jamie Lee Curtis is in there too. And this is like a young Jamie Lee Curtis, so it's not like she was older. She also said somewhere, I think, that she didn't think she did a really good job in this movie. And like, to be fair, the acting is kind of like but the rest of the movie overshadows, I think, the kind of terrible acting in this.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I just really enjoyed it because, like, I mean, you see Jamie Lee Curtis now. She was in Knives Out. I really like Knives Out, that movie.
I haven't seen it.
She's really good in that movie, and like Jamie Lee Curtis is just an amazing actress.
Definitely.
But yeah, and I really did like her in this. Her and the Doctor, I think, were my two favorite characters. I don't even remember the names of, like, because she has a couple of other friends in that movie. I don't remember their names. But yeah, and it's Jamie Lee Curtis, and I don't even remember Jamie Lee Curtis's name, actually. Now that's gonna bother me. Her name's Laurie. Okay. So yeah, Laurie, and then Michael Myers, and the Doctor's name is Loomis, I think. Yeah, Loomis. He's got a first name, I think. I don't remember what it is though. But yeah, it's just, yeah, I just love them in this, and the music is so iconic, and so is the visuals. And it was such a good movie when it came out, even though I was not alive when it came out. But I remember seeing this movie for the first time. I saw this, like, I think my freshman year of high school. I remember seeing this because someone played it. Someone played the theme in class on, like, in the band room. And I remembered, like, I knew it was from Halloween, but I had never seen the movie. So I went home and I, like, went to the library. And I got the movie from the library and I watched it. Nice. I remember thinking, oh, this is an amazing movie. But yeah.
I feel like a lot of old cinema like that, they had these tiny budgets and they were so creative and they managed to create these things that, you know, even now are getting like sequels and stuff too.
Yep. Yeah, because that's kind of the thing with like both Aliens and Halloween, because those movies are only 1 year apart. Because Halloween was 1978 and Alien was 79. But yeah, you're right. Those films are still getting like sequels and stuff. It's good. Yeah.
I'm so tired, man. It's these new meds. Oh yeah. Man, I'm so drowsy.
Anyway. Yeah. What's your second one?
My second one, I have Cloverfield written down.
Ooh, Cloverfield.
Have you seen it?
Which Cloverfield?
The first one with the big monster.
I think I did see it. I haven't seen it in a while though.
Yeah.
So I don't remember much about it.
It's been a couple of years since I've seen it as well, but it is so good. I really like found footage as a like style of movie. Just because there's like limitations that you have to work within, but those limitations help like the cinematography be really good.
Yeah.
And so in Cloverfield, like the way that the monster is portrayed, it's this giant raging monster and it's tearing apart a city, but we barely ever see it, which is great. Like we see like bits of it behind a building or something because it's found footage. You know, it's on a camcorder that this guy is carrying around, or maybe it's a phone. I don't remember. Anyway, it does a great job of building the atmosphere of being in a disaster while it's happening, and also there being this like giant monster that's always like sort of just around the corner. And it doesn't explain things, which I love. It doesn't explain where the monster came from. It doesn't explain the little monsters that are like chasing people around. It doesn't explain why one of the characters just randomly blows up after being bitten. She gets bitten, they like tear the monster off of her and they like kill it or whatever. And then later on they get to like a human like protected area, and the like med techs or whatever, they see her and they're like, oh my god, we gotta bite her, and they take her into this like quarantine area and then she just fucking explodes. Like, what does it mean? It's not explained, and it's amazing. I love it when things just aren't explained, because it just adds to the horror. It's the unknown.
Yeah.
It's like, why the fuck did that happen? I have no idea. It just did.
Yeah, spontaneous combustion.
Yeah.
Just random explosions everywhere.
It wasn't like a fire explosion. It was like a pressure explosion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It wasn't like gouts of flame going everywhere. It was like blood and viscera.
Oh, so it was like imploding.
No. Like, she definitely exploded outwards.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't like a fiery explosion. It was, blood and guts.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Cloverfield did really well, and so it got 2 sequels.
Yeah.
I think it's called 12 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah.
And then the Cloverfield Paradox.
Mm-hmm.
Cloverfield Paradox, by the way, really amazing. Absolutely loved it. Really great for horror and, again, fear of the unknown, which is just something the whole series does really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to have to rewatch Cloverfield at some point because I remember watching it at one point. It's been a while since I've watched it, so I'm probably going to have to rewatch that again.
Yeah. I watched it on a plane.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I was on vacation with my parents, and the movie selection was like really garbage, and Cloverfield was there, and I was like, well, I mean, I've seen some stuff about Cloverfield, I might as well watch it. And then I watched it, and I was like, holy crap, it's so good.
Yeah. I remember I watched a horror movie on a plane one time. It was a disaster movie. It was called Greenland.
Greenland?
Yeah. So basically the plot is there's a meteor coming towards Earth.
Mm-hmm.
The government can't do anything to stop it. There's this one military shelter in Greenland.
Okay.
That is going to be safe from everything. So it's like this guy who's a civil engineer, and his family, and he tries to get them on the plane. So like the government has picked a certain number of people to be flown to that base.
Okay.
And they pick him because he's a civil engineer and they're going to need engineers to rebuild.
Yeah.
So they pick him and his family, and the rest of his friends and his neighbors realize that he's been picked. And it's the first kind of scene is really emotional because as he's taking his family to the airport to go to Greenland, this mother runs out in the street with her child and is like, take my child with you. And they're like really good friends with him. And like you can see when the friends start to turn against each other is because he knows that he has to save his family. But he has to abandon all of his friends because his friends weren't picked.
Yeah.
And there's a point where like his daughter gets separated from him and kidnapped by another family who doesn't have because they give the people who are supposed to go to Greenland like a wristband.
Okay.
So like this other family doesn't have a wristband, but they take the child who does have a wristband. So they're trying to get in by showing only her wristband and hoping that they're going to be let in with her. Yeah, and then they eventually miss the plane that they were supposed to get on, and they have to find a different way to Greenland.
Oh, no.
And also, like, the kid has diabetes, and
fun.
The government didn't know that when they chose his family, because they, like, weren't having any people with, like, medical disabilities because medical disabilities supplies was limited.
Yeah.
So, they turned the child and the mother away at the gate because she had diabetes.
Oh.
And, yeah, it was just... I remember watching that movie on the plane. There was like this guy next to me, who kept looking over at my screen, and I was like, I could tell he was kind of looking over, and he would look over occasionally at first, and then at one point he was just like staring at my screen for like a good 10 minutes. And by the time the movie ended, he had fallen asleep.
Nice.
But like I was just like,
interrogate him.
Yeah,
no, why the fuck are you watching my screen?
The funny thing was, there was no audio. He could only see what was going on. He couldn't hear anything because I had my headphones in.
Oh my god, that reminds me of the worst plane ride I've ever been on.
Oh yeah?
You know what a red eye is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, imagine this: it's a red eye. Every screen is playing Paul Blart Mall Cop. You cannot turn it off, and you have to buy earbuds. But you don't want to buy earbuds because they're stupidly overpriced. It was like $20 or something for a pair. And yeah, it was kind of awful. We were on our way to Ohio, and fucking Paul Blart Mall Cop. I will never watch that movie just out of protest because I had to sit there and watch it happen without the sound. And we were in like a row because the screens were on the ceiling, not on the chairs in front of us. Because this was I was like 4 at the time, so this was like 2007. The screens were on the ceiling, and we were positioned so that we could either look like straight up at a screen, or we could look really far ahead at a screen. So we could either see it tiny or see it like with inverted colors because we're seeing it from a polarized view.
Yeah.
And so it was hell.
I've seen Paul Blart Mall Cop a couple of times. I thought it was really funny, but I get how like being trapped in a plane with Paul Blart Mall Cop, I get how that would be like very weird and very strange and annoying.
Oh my god.
It's a hilarious story.
It sure is a movie, isn't it?
Yeah. Kevin James.
Fucking Paul Blart.
Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Why?
Yeah. Bobby Cannavale is in that movie.
I don't know who that is.
He was he played Jim Paxton in Ant-Man, and he was also in this show on Hulu that I watched called 9 Perfect Strangers.
Mm-hmm.
If I showed you a picture of him, you'd recognize him.
Probably.
But yeah, he's a pretty good actor. I like him. For some reason I can't remember anything else he's ever done except for those 3 roles: Paul Blart, Ant-Man, and 9 Perfect Strangers. For some reason I can't remember any of his other roles, but I know he's been in other things. But yeah. Anyway, my top horror movie, Jaws. Jaws is my favorite horror movie of all time, and it's for that reason you mentioned earlier of you can't overshow the monster, because the decision to not overshow the monster in this was actually not one that was – it was completely accidental because they wanted to show the shark more, but the animatronics that they were using kept getting wet and damaged, so they couldn't use the shark as often as they wanted to. And that actually ended up working in the movie's favor because you see it less often.
Yeah.
And like the score for this is absolutely amazing. Anytime you get Steven Spielberg directing and John Williams composing, the movie is just completely great, and I love it. Because like Steven Spielberg does an amazing job with this movie. At least I'm gonna feel really embarrassed if it's not Steven Spielberg who directed this movie. I'm pretty sure it's Steven Spielberg. Yeah.
But yeah, the directing and composing is so good. You know, even as a little kid who had never seen Jaws, I knew the theme song, the dun 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 dun, all that.
Yeah.
I knew that, and that's because it's so iconic that it had like worked its way into everyone's minds.
Yeah, like if you think about it, how many other scores or songs can you think of that you can recognize from the first 2 notes?
Very few.
Yeah, very few. So John Williams does an amazing job of, you're right, like the dun, and
it's iconic.
Yeah, I actually did. I played with the Skagit Symphony up in Skagit Valley, Washington. And we did a John Williams concert, so I got to play Jaws, and nice. I was on
good stuff.
Yeah, I was on string bass, and I was the one that had the dun 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 dun. Yeah, and yeah, it's an amazing score, and it's so iconic, and the shark too, and like the scene where the girl is skinny dipping and gets eaten by the shark from below is so iconic. And I really just love this movie because of that. And like you have quotes from this too, like, we're going to need a bigger boat. Yeah, like that quote is like so iconic.
And it's great because it's an improv quote as well.
Yeah, it is. And like it was just so amazing when I first saw it. And I can keep watching that movie I can watch that movie every single year and still appreciate it just as much as I did the year before.
Yeah.
It's just like a timeless classic, a little bit like Halloween is, because Halloween I think is timeless too. So is Alien, and a lot of these actually are. But yeah,
a lot of the old movies have aged incredibly well.
Yeah.
Just because of their use of animatronics or really good practical effects. When you have really solid practical effects, your movie's going to be watchable for years and years.
Yeah.
But like in the second The Thing movie or the like redo of it or whatever, they used a combination of animatronics and CG to make the monsters, and they look so horrible. They look absolutely garbage, and that's because CG just wasn't very good back then.
Yeah.
But like the animatronics and the practical effects that they used in the first Thing movie, top tier.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and like I love the characters in this too. Like Chief Brody, I think is amazing. Forgetting, I think it's Michael Shaw is his name. Robert Shaw is the one who played Quint. Roy Scheider, that's who played Brody, and then Richard Dreyfuss played Hopper. Hopper is the marine biologist.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. So I remember them, and I remember that scene when Hopper's under, or when he's scuba diving, and he sees that body part come out of the boat that's just like completely shredded. I love that. And yeah, I just think Jaws is an amazing movie, and I love the shark too. Like like Steven Spielberg has actively said, like he's regretted making this movie because of the bad image it gave sharks, and like I sort of agree with him, but also I really love this movie.
Yeah, everyone thinks sharks are evil now, but they're not. They're really nice.
Yeah, more people a year die from bees than they do from sharks.
Yeah,
and like sharks are
nobody's
cool
allergic
creatures.
to sharks.
This is true. Nobody's allergic to sharks. But yeah, I love sharks. Sharks are amazing creatures. But also I love this movie. And my seventh grade history teacher actually told me a story because he was alive when this movie came out in theaters. So he told me a story about how he and his brother went to this theater and saw Jaws, and his brother would not take a bath after this movie because he was so afraid to get in the water because he thought a shark was going to come up and bite him.
How would a shark get in your bath?
Well, to be fair, his brother was only like 6 at the time, I think.
That makes sense. I was freakishly scared of things when I was 6 too.
Yeah. And it was just, I thought it was really funny because, but yeah, so anytime Steven Spielberg directs a movie with John Williams composing it, it just ends up being amazing. And I love it. But yeah, what's your number one?
My number one? So again, mine aren't like ranked.
Right,
specifically. This is just the last one I have written down. It's called, I actually wrote it down wrong. I looked it up a moment ago. It's called I Am Mother. I Am Mother.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's a lesser known like Netflix horror movie. Basically the plot is there's a robot designed to take care of and raise humans after like a big disaster happened.
Right, yeah.
And the robot itself is the like monster, right? But it's much less of like a monster movie and more of like a psychological horror. Because you see the robot through the entire movie, but it's only in the like last like fifth of it that it actually becomes, quote unquote monstery.
Right, yeah.
And that really helps, like, the whole time there's a lot of tension building because you have this very inhuman thing taking care of a kid.
Yeah.
And that really makes some great atmosphere. And then this other woman shows up, and she's from outside of their little like shelter thing.
Right, yeah.
And the girl who's like adult-ish now, like takes her in and like takes care of her, and then conflict ensues, whatever. Anyway, it's really freaking good, and it does a great job of building atmosphere and intrigue and like what happened, what caused this, why are there no other people, and yada yada. And then it really pays off on that later, and it's top tier stuff, absolutely.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. That's on Netflix?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, let me make sure of that. I wanna make sure.
Yeah, I love watching good horror movies.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
That's what's her name? I forget. She's got a name. The actress has a name.
Yeah.
It's called I Am Mother?
Yeah. Claire Rugard, Rose Byrne, Hilary Swank, and Luke Hawker.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I should give that a watch at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that concludes our section on horror movies.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, we only have a few things. Oh, I did actually want to quickly mention, I reviewed this movie back a couple of years ago. I actually think it was last year that I reviewed this movie because I was part of a movie event where they were doing a whole bunch of monster movies. This movie was called Deep Rising. It's got
What the heck?
why is that flashing? Why can't I remember his? Oh, I remember his name. Treat Williams. It stars Treat Williams, Frankie Jamson, and it's got I don't remember how to pronounce his name. It's like Wes Anderson. No, it's not Wes Anderson. Sorry. It's his name is Wes something.
If it's Wes Anderson, I'm gonna laugh at you.
No, it's not the director, because I know Wes Anderson, the director. What was his name? Oh, Wes Studi.
Wes Studi.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then it's got Djimon Hassanu. He was Korath the Pursuer in Guardians of the Galaxy, and in Captain Marvel. He was like Ronan's like kind of cybernetic friend.
Oh,
yeah. That's who he played. So he's been in a lot of movies I've seen. I just don't remember how to pronounce his name, and I feel really bad. So if you ever listen to this, I'm sorry I've mispronounced your name. But Wes Studi's been in a couple of things that I've watched too. Treat Williams has been in like a lot of movies from the production studio The Asylum. Which is just like a crappy movie studio. But he made this movie, and like Deep Rising, I had never seen it before I started watching it, but basically the plot is this ocean liner gets attacked by this monster called the Oculus in the middle of the ocean, and the Oculus goes throughout the ship and eats basically the entire ocean liner, except for a few people who are on the ocean liner and a group of terrorists who have hijacked the ocean liner. Because the plot is a group of terrorists hijacks the ocean liner, and then the Oculus, the monster, starts to eat everybody on the ship, and the terrorists kind of have to work with Treat Williams. His name is Hanover?
Hanover, yeah. I saw it earlier.
Yeah, Hanover. No, Hanover is Wes's character. So the lead terrorist, his name is Hanover. John Finnegan is Treat Williams' name. But yeah, and it's just like, it's a guilty pleasure movie because this movie should be bad, but I just like it so much. And it does a good job because for the first half of the movie, you don't see the Oculus. You just see what it's done. And it's basically what it is it takes in a human body, it dissolves it with acid and spits out the skeleton.
Okay.
And eventually, when you do see the Oculus, what my reaction, instead of being like impressed with like this monster and how scary it is I was just laughing because the CGI is just so terrible.
Nice.
The CGI was so terrible. And I just remember laughing. I still enjoyed the movie, and that's why it's a guilty pleasure movie. But the Oculus is just so blatantly bad that I can't take it seriously after that, even though it is kind of scary how, like, because like ocean liners...
It's scary how bad it is.
Yeah, it's scary how bad it is. And like ocean liners carry like a whole bunch of people on it. So the fact that monster was able to like eat everybody on the ship, except for like the 6 people who don't get eaten, I found very funny. And I think at the end of this, actually, they get off the ocean liner. The 2 main characters, So everybody else dies, but the two main characters, they get off the ocean liner and they make it to this island. And this island has like another monster on it.
Are you kidding?
You don't actually see what the monster is. You just see like it's that kind of you see a whole bunch of trees falling and a big object moving.
Yeah.
So it's implied that it's another monster. And there's also a volcano.
There's so much going on.
Yeah, that was the end of the movie. So that was like the last 2 minutes.
Why?
There's also jet skis involved.
Okay, well, it happens in the ocean, so that's expected.
Yeah, there were jet skis involved. Like when the ship is sinking, they need jet skis to get out of the ship. And I found that kind of funny. But yeah, this movie is just so terrible that it should be bad, but I like it for some reason.
It's always the best.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie, and I recommend watching it.
It's definitely a movie.
You can find it on Amazon. I'm not sure if it's on any streaming service, but I watched it on Amazon, and I bought it for like $7.99. And like it was it's definitely a movie that I would recommend watching. Anyway, so this last section that we're gonna do, just talk about briefly things that we've watched over the past month, or things that we're going to try and watch over the next month. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right.
It's just a couple days ago that I actually watched this. It's this movie called Outside the Wire.
Oh.
It's actually quite prophetic. It was made years ago, but it actually takes place in like 2050 something or 2060 something.
Yeah.
And there's a conflict in Eastern Europe between like Russian-backed like rebels and the like Ukrainian resistance, and it's like verging on prophetic, the kinds of things that they're talking about in it. And you know, it's like 40 years in the future, so they also have like these things called gumps, which are basically think a soldier but a robot, and also kind of an idiot, because there's like multiple times throughout the movie where the gumps will just like do something stupid and then die because of it. And like, while I love to laugh at that, I also like it when robots are smart.
Yeah.
But one of the main characters, and this is revealed in the trailer, so it's not spoilers, one of the main characters is a robot, but like a hyper advanced one. He's like a special prototype or whatever. He's only been alive like 3 years. And it's a good time. Really neat. Yeah.
Anything else?
I also watched Cyberpunk Edgerunners.
Oh, okay.
I'm a total hipster. I've been playing Cyberpunk since launch. I've loved it the entire time.
Yeah.
You know, even with the bugs, it's just fun to play, and that's what I want in the game. I just want to have a good time. And so to have Cyberpunk Edgerunners come out and then have this whole new influx of players who, you know, part of me wants to be a pretentious hipster and be like, oh, you guys are just bandwagoning. You're just like, you know, you're just into it because this show came out and the show's good. And it's like, yeah, they are just into it because of that. But I'm also just into it because I randomly decided to buy it one day, right? Like, it doesn't matter. And with all these new people, there's so much more content being made. And like, I've seen like animated videos of like different characters interacting, and it's really blown up on YouTube, and there's way more like YouTubers making content about it. There's this one guy who goes over like secret quests and stuff from the game, and I've been watching through a lot of his content, and I didn't know about most of it, which is awesome, because like with all this stuff blowing up, I'm finally able to like get everything out of this game.
Right. Yeah.
I'm also getting into modding it, and with all the new players, there's a bunch of new mods, and the amount of different like choices you can go for is just top quality. Love it. So yeah, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, absolutely amazing. I have a few problems with it, but like nothing major.
Yeah.
Watch it. It's good.
Nice.
Yeah. Studio Trigger. They're the same people who made Kill la Kill and I think Madoka Magica.
Oh, okay.
yeah, like real OGs in the anime space, and they have not fallen off at all. Their animation quality is still top fucking notch. It's amazing.
Nice. Yeah.
What about you?
So I've been watching the big thing I've been watching. I got into this new sitcom. It's not new. Like it's been out for a while. It's called Community. So yeah.
I've heard some stuff about it.
Yeah, so it's basically about these like 8 people who are at a community college and they get into a whole bunch of shenanigans. I'm like midway through the last season. Uh it was so hilarious when I started it. And I feel like after cuz like it halfway into like season 3, like 2 of the main characters have already left, and by the 4th season like another main character leaves. So like as soon as Pierce left the show, and I know you probably don't know who Pierce is or any of these names that I'm about to use, but like as soon as Pierce left the show, it started kind of going a little downhill, and then Donald Glover, who's in this show too, left, and so did Yvette Nicole Brown. So those 2 left the show, and the show kind of deteriorated. It was still funny, but it wasn't funny in the same way that it was in like the first 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a pretty good show, and I definitely watch it again. Like if you're looking for something to just like watch while you're eating, this is that kind of show that you watch and you just find it so good. I mean, Jim Rash is in this. Ken Jeong is in this. Ken Jeong is hilarious. I love him. Yeah, a lot of the Community cast actually made cameos in the MCU. So like Jim Rash is that MIT liaison from Civil War.
Okay.
Ken Jeong is a storage company security guard in Endgame. Yeah, Yvette Nicole Brown is in the elevator in Endgame when Cap is back in the 1970s. Daniel Putty, who plays Abed Nadir in Community, is he's like a SHIELD agent in Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
That's sick.
Yeah, so the Russo brothers, who did the directions for Winter Soldier, Civil War, and then the last 2 Avengers movies, they're the ones who worked with Dan Harmon on this show.
Oh.
So that's why there are a lot of Community cast members in their kind of like in kind of their films. Also, like Jack Black is in one episode. Like there are a lot of like big actors who appear for like one episode, and it's really funny.
Nice.
Brie Larson is in this. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, she plays some girl named Rachel. She's in there for like 2 episodes. There's Owen Wilson is in this at one point. Randall Park plays himself. Nathan Fillion's in this. Kumail Nanjiani is in this. And also I find it really funny that Nathan Fillion is in this because in like, I don't know if it was just because I watched so many episodes at once, but it felt like, I think it was even in the same season, they made a joke about Nathan Fillion by name. And then Nathan Fillion was in the show later, but playing a different character. He wasn't playing Nathan Fillion.
Oh.
Like he was a different character. So I found that kind of funny that they mentioned him and then they made him a different character because then he'd look exactly like that universe's Nathan Fillion, I guess, or whatever. But
that's hilarious to me.
Yeah, so I've been watching that show. I also watched the 3 Hobbit movies, which I thought were pretty good. Christopher Lee obviously is amazing. Martin Friedman.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched those, and I'm gonna watch the Lord of the Rings movies next. And then I'm finally gonna get around to watching Rings of Power, which I probably should have watched already, but I'm gonna watch those. I've also been watching The Cleaning Lady, 911, and
I've heard good things about The Cleaning Lady.
Yeah. Elodie Young, who played Elektra in Daredevil. She plays Thony. And I really enjoyed that show. Because she's this illegal immigrant who's trapped in between these 2 worlds. She has to work for an FBI agent to stay in the country, but she also works as a cleaning lady for a mobster, cleaning up like dead bodies and stuff. And like it's so amazing, and the drama in this show is so amazing because they have all these different characters who all play some sort of role, and it's really nice to see how because she also has a son in the show who has like a life-threatening condition and needs like medical treatment, and at one point he needs a kidney transplant, and the mobster helps her with her son because the mobster really cares about her and really cares about her son. So he helps her get like the kidney for her son and these other kinds of things that she needs. But she has to work for the FBI agent because if she doesn't, the FBI agent's going to deport her. And I just think it's really interesting. So season 2 is it's been coming out weekly now, I think on Tuesdays. I've also been watching 911, which has been around for a couple of years. It's just a show about firefighters and cops and 911 dispatchers. They go to separate things. I really like that show. It's got Kenneth Choi. Why can't I remember her name? Angela Bassett. Kenneth Choi, Angela Bassett, a couple of other big names in there. And then I've also been watching The Goldbergs, which like the main point of this season is that their father is dead. The actor didn't actually die. What happened was he was sexually harassing people, or I guess allegedly sexually harassing people. So they removed him from the show, and they had to find a way to write him out. So they just killed him off. So that's like been the biggest point of this season. I think it's still funny. I think it's kind of like Community, where the earlier seasons were kind of funnier than what it is now. But I still really like that show, and I grew up watching that show with my mom and my brother.
Nice.
So yeah, that's pretty good. And then the other two things, or I guess the other one thing that I watched was She-Hulk, because She-Hulk ended this month too. The finale, I still having like mind, like I don't even know what to call it. I just am trying to keep understanding that finale episode, and I can't understand that finale episode. Like, I mean, I understand what happened, but just the time travel and the universe logic, I cannot seem to wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
And
It's just what Marvel is these days, you know?
Yeah, and like it's still a really good show. I really enjoyed it because it's not like these hour-long episodes that sometimes they're filler, sometimes they're not. Yeah. It's these like half-hour episodes that you can watch because it's a legal comedy, and you can still like get your fill of like hilarious like action movie kind of hilarious vibes from it. Obviously, they have Charlie Cox in there as Daredevil back again. And when I watched that episode with him, his reveal was just so amazing. And I really loved it.
Nice.
And I can't wait to see him back. They also had Wong is back in this.
Yeah, I heard that he made a cameo.
Wong is so amazing. I love Wong as a character.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So he's amazing in this. Bruce Banner is obviously in this. Mm-hmm. There's like this thing at the end with Bruce Banner. I'm not going to say it because it's a spoiler. But in the finale episode, there's this thing with Bruce Banner. They also have the Intelligentsia is in this as well. In the comics, the Intelligentsia was made up of a whole bunch of supervillains. Technically, there's this paper in Avengers Age of Ultron that says Claw is part of the Intelligentsia. And like the Intelligentsia in She-Hulk is basically like advanced Reddit.
Advanced Reddit.
No, okay, that's not correct. It's like advanced 4chan.
Oh.
So like it's a whole bunch of these like the phrase they use in the show is hateful man babies.
Okay.
So it's basically a whole bunch of hateful man babies that are like, give me back male Hulk. Give me back male Hulk. Screw male She-Hulk. So or female She-Hulk.
They're basically just making fun of their own critics.
Yes, but they're also trying to figure out how to kill She-Hulk. So they're like trying to figure out ways to like actually murder her.
The writers of She-Hulk.
Oh, yes,
are making fun of their own critics.
Yes, they are making fun of their own critics because like if you take a look at some of the stuff that's in the show and you take a look at some of the stuff that's on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just I think it's hilarious. But yeah, so I recommend watching that if you haven't. But yeah,
It's on the list.
yeah. I think that brings us to the end of the show. This is probably going to be up on YouTube at some point. So if it does end up on YouTube,
Like and subscribe.
What did YouTubers say? Hit that notification bell. That's a thing that people say.
Hit that bell icon.
Hit that bell icon. Smash your keyboard.
Smash your keyboard.
Don't smash your keyboard. Don't blame me for your keyboard being smashed. Just as a disclaimer, I'm making sure that you know not to smash your keyboard. I did not tell you to smash that.
Do not damage your own possessions.
Yes.
Under any circumstances.
Lightly tap the subscribe button.
Lightly
tap the notification bell. If this does end up going on YouTube, which it might not, but it might. So we'll see. It looks like this is going to be recorded about once a month. So I think next month we'll probably take a look at the new Black Panther movie. There's the light again.
There's the light again.
Yep. So we'll probably do that next month, and we'll come up with a few more other things for next month. Right now, you can find me on Instagram at The Year Review. I'm sure this podcast will eventually have a social media at some point. I technically have a Twitter account, but I don't ever use it. So don't try and find me on Twitter.
I am the exact same with my podcast. I have a Twitter account. I do not use it.
I'm sure this podcast will eventually have a Twitter account and an Instagram account. At some point, and probably we'll have a Gmail associated with this podcast as well. But until then, you can find me at The Year Review on Instagram. I review movies and shows. I haven't posted since January, and I feel kind of bad about that because I really want to get back into posting because I really love reviewing things. But yeah, you heard me a couple of other times through the shows referring to myself reviewing these things. That's what I meant. So you can find my Terminator reviews, my Spider-Man No Way Home review, Jaws review. That's all on my Instagram. But yeah, so if you wanna leave a comment, things you might want to hear.
Can I make a bad joke for like sending us off?
You can make a bad joke.
I think we can cut it here. Haha. Footage.
That's a very good joke. Well, I thought it was good. I make a lot of dad jokes all the time. And I'm not even 20. I'm going to be a terrific dad someday, but maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, so find us next month. Leave a comment on what you liked, what you didn't like, or maybe about how I should look in the corner of the computer screen for the date next time. Or how we should get this light fixed in this room.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Ian about that.
Yeah,
You're like, hey, can we not have the light turning on and off randomly?
Yeah, we're going to eventually end up doing this podcast by candlelight. Yeah, just have a whole bunch of incense. Actually, that's a fire hazard, I think, according to building code.
Yeah. Sadly,
we can't do this by candlelight.
Sadly, we can't risk our lives while recording a podcast.
Darn, unfortunate. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see you guys next month. Yeah.